Hey, what's up you guys, it's Steph, and today we're getting dark. Today we're talking about the early 20th century serial killer, Albert Fish. He wasn't just a serial killer though, he was also known as one of the worst child predators and cannibals of all time. Before we talk about his horrific crimes however, let's take a look at Albert Fish's background. Fish's family had a long history with mental illness. His mother, uncle, brother, sister, as well as 3 other relatives had all been diagnosed with some kind of affliction or illness. At a young age, Fish was abandoned and sent to an orphanage. Here, he claimed he experienced regular acts of brutality and beatings, but he also said that he began to enjoy them because eventually they brought him pleasure. At age 12, Fish's mother was able to take him out of the orphanage back into her care. From that point on, Fish learned to work more with his hands than with his brain. He also began a relationship with a boy who introduced him to drinking urine and eating feces. He sounds fun at parties. In 1890, Fish relocated to New York, where his crimes against children first began. He made a living in prostitution and began molesting young boys. He would lure children away from home, torture them in various ways, and sexually assault them. As time passed, things only got worse for his victims. His crimes began to grow more fiendish and bizarre, and they usually wound up in the murder and or cannibalization of his victims. In 1898, Fish actually married and eventually helped conceive 6 children. Unfortunately, his marriage wouldn't last because his wife would run away with another man in 1917. It was around this time that those children began to remember him, asking them to participate in his sadomasochistic games. An example being asking his children to paddle him until blood ran down his legs. Fun. He also enjoyed pushing needles deep into his skin. Fun. After Fish's wife ran off, he began to write letters to personal columns in newspapers, targeted towards women, going into graphic detail about sexual acts he wanted to share in them with. They were so vile and disgusting that they were never made public. However, they were submitted as evidence against Fish in a court trial for one of his more infamous crimes. Albert Fish, under the name Frank Howard, posted an ad for work that was later discovered by 18-year-old Edward Budd. Both Budd and his friend were offered to work at Howard's farm. He planned to pick both boys up in a few days, but never showed. Instead, the family received a handwritten note explaining that he would be in touch in a few days. The following morning, he came for a visit and was invited to stay for lunch with family. It was during this visit that Howard was introduced to Bud's younger sister, Gracie. Howard explained that before he could take the boys to his farm, he had to go attend a birthday party, and he asked if Gracie could come. Howard's gracious attitude and friendly nature compelled the parents to let Gracie go with him. Neither ever came back, and Gracie was never seen again. Over time, the family received a letter with the description and murder of little Gracie, in handwriting that matched the letter that Howard had sent before her disappearance. Unfortunately, during the investigation to find Gracie, another child went missing. Billy Gaffney was a 4-year-old playing with his 3-year-old neighbor, also named Billy. 3-year-old Billy would go on to say that the boogeyman took Billy Gaffney away. Not long after Billy's disappearance, 8-year-old Francis McDonald would also go missing. His mother recalls seeing an elderly gray-haired man walking past her house, but thinking nothing of it. Later that day in the park, Francis's friend would recall seeing him go into the forest with an elderly gray-haired man. Francis would later be discovered in the woods under some branches, badly beaten and strangled with his own suspenders. The manhunt for this boogeyman and gray man began, but unfortunately, despite all the efforts, he disappeared. It was later discovered that the letter sent to Gracie's family after her murder had a certain emblem that was really hard to come across. Police were able to track it back to the New York Private Chauffeurs Bellevant Association, where it was discovered a janitor had taken a few pages, but he had also left them in an old apartment he had rented out. The landlady for said room confirmed an old man matching the gray man's description. He had been there for a few months but checked out a few days ago, although he was expecting a check to be coming in the mail to that location. Through that, they were able to identify him as Albert H. Fish. Police intercepted the letter that Fish was waiting for and used the landlady to aid in the capture of Fish. Once he was caught, he didn't keep very quiet. He revealed that he originally wanted to lure Edward Budd and his friend to his farm to murder them. Everything changed, however, once he saw Gracie. He purchased a one-way train ticket, and after the ride, he brought her to a house. He told Gracie to wait outside and pick flowers. He went inside and began to strip his clothes because he didn't want to get any blood on them. When he called Gracie upstairs, she was frightened and called for her mother. Fish choked her to death, decapitated her, and cut up her body. He even took parts wrapped in newspaper when he left. Police were able to locate her remains based off of his confession. He even discussed details of young Billy Gaffney's murder, how he tied him up and beat him to death. He even admitted to drinking his blood and making a stew out of his body parts. Throughout his entire confession, he was calm and reserved, which is disgusting thinking about what he did, how he could just be so calm and just relay it as if nothing happened. He confessed that he wanted to inflict pain and have pain inflicted on him, and that added to compulsion to write and send these obscene letters that he used to send to the newspapers. Later x-rays would reveal multiple needles shoved into the area between his anus and his scrotum. At least 29 were discovered. That's gotta hurt. The defense argued that he was legally insane, but the jury didn't buy it. He was considered to be a psychopathic personality without psychosis and was found guilty after just 10 days on trial. And with that, the fish fried. Thank you for seeing through this video. If you enjoyed it, you may enjoy the last video I did on a subject like this, which was Jeffrey Dahmer, and for that, I'll leave you right here. If you'd like to see another video from my channel, I will leave you with the haunting history of Clovis Wolf Manor, which I'll leave for you right here. If you'd like to subscribe for more spooky videos like this, you can hit my face right here, as well as the button down there. You can hit the bell icon to be notified when I post new videos on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And that's all I've got for you guys today. Even after watching this, I hope you have a lovely day/night, and I'll see you later.